It is taking time, it's receiving time, it's collection time.
Prophetic, effective, productive.
No more delay. No more delay. I am going to speak on hindrances to supernatural living. My goal is to make supernatural living simple for you enough to enjoy it. For it became him, for whom are all things and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering. Verse 10 is talking about God, the Father. It became him. The word became is that it was necessary, fitting, proper for him. That's for the Father now. In doing what? It described the Father as the one for whom are all things and by whom are all things. Do you see that statement? That's the teaching for another day. In bringing many sons, not a few, many sons, not all, many. How many of you want to be amongst the many? It's not all. Now, many means you will have a liberty to either agree with God or disagree with him. But now what God is doing is that in bringing many sons unto glory. What does glory mean to you? Now that tells you what God is doing now in the earth. His goal is bringing many sons unto glory. Do you understand that? Unto glory. To a place of glory. Many sons. Now how does he get those sons? You cannot be a son that is bringing unto glory if you have not become his son. Do you get that? Huh? Now the glory that an unbeliever manifests is the glory that was resident in Adam originally. You understand that every human being has that. There's a capacity inside you now as a Christian, as a human being. But when you got born again, there is another capacity inside you that came with the new birth. There's a capacity that came with your natural birth. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Christianity, though, it did not come into your life to stop the natural capacity inside you, which many Christians are doing. As soon as they get born again, they start failing in school. They start misbehaving and all that, things like that. People think that Christianity is a religion for failures. No, that's wrong. Rather, Christianity gives you an advantage that natural life does not give anybody else. Because everything that the natural life gives you, you already have it. Do you get what I'm saying? Now, if I speak English like this, hear me. I told you when I went to primary school, they used Yoruba to explain English to us in class. My father died when I was young. Are you listening to what I'm saying? My father was a polygamist, had 4 wives. My mother was not educated. She sold akara for my mother. But I looked at the 4 branches of my family, and I found out that it's our branch alone in my generation that had university degree. What it tells me is that my mother, even though she was not educated, had a capacity for education that lack of education denied her. And she went for adult education. She always struggled. She went for adult education. Do you understand what I'm saying? But now we, the children, receive that capacity. Can you get what I'm saying? Okay? Now that's what my father, that was in the natural lineage now. I went to school. Now, in primary school, I didn't have opportunity. But my brain capacity was there. Financially, there was no capacity. But God helped me. I went to a good secondary school. Form 1, because of where I'm coming from, primary school, I couldn't speak too much English. But you cannot converse in the secondary school. I went to government college that you cannot speak in vernacular. So here is somebody that I can beat up that is troubling me. And so I have to withdraw. Form 1, Form 2. Maths, I wasn't good. But now I stayed in class. Education came. And my brain began to open up. The capacity was there. By the time I got to Form 4, my brain woke up. I came out of secondary school with grade 1 distinction at grade 9. I had A1 in English, A1 in mathematics, A1 in physics and chemistry. So I could read, I could go for medicine, engineering. I could go, in fact, I did literature in Form 5. As a pastor, I just went to their class, and the teacher told us to write poem. My poem was better than the ones that I registered for YX. So the teacher wanted me to register. I said, no, I did French in school. Now, I'm talking to you that my mother didn't go to school, but that ability was natural. But now, if I didn't go to this good secondary school I went, I would not have been able to speak good English, and you think that capacity is not there. There are things that you are capable of doing that life has denied you the opportunity, that God is looking for a way to give you the opportunity. Now, I believe that the capacity in the black race, God will still help the black man to express himself. Because every other color had made the black man to look like the cousin of the devil. But life has conspired against the black man. I said, if it is color that is our problem, or if color affects your performance, then take a black man and woman, let them give birth to a black boy in Europe, and give that boy all the opportunity that every white is exposed to for 25 years. Take a white man and white woman, let them give birth to a black boy in the baddest of African country, and take the parents away and let him be exposed to all the deprivations here. In 25 years, let them compete together. If the white boy beats that black boy, then you will agree that white color is superior. Because it is lack of opportunity that's our problem, not color of our skin. Now, I want you to break that yoke from your mind today. Nobody was born superior to you. Nobody was created better than you. You've got to understand that from the Bible and from common sense. Because unless you believe it, you can't perform at the level that you are not thinking. Your thinking has to connect to who you really are. I've never thought of wearing my wife's jacket or my wife's blouse because I know I'm a man. I don't do that. If you know you are made and in God's class, you will think noble thoughts. But if something convinces you that you are a gorilla, you will think like a gorilla. You behave like one. Is anybody following what I'm saying? Now, if you are born again and you agree with your ancestry, you will behave like your ancestor, speaking in tongues. That is why you find pastors that carry anointing that is sleeping with women in church. He has a wife at home. If he's sleeping with women in church, you find evangelists that go on the crusade and is counseling women and doing all kind of crazy. You find choir members that are sleeping among each other in church. Born again. Being born again is not going to help you unless you make a decision based on that being born again. Where do you find born again people that are telling lies? That capacity is there. You got it from your ancestors, but you can stop it. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying here? Now, do you know there are some of you here that in your destiny is the capacity to be a billionaire, but you are suffering financially now? And something tells you there's no way out. In the first service, I asked the question, is being sick, is it a sin? Is being sick the will of God? Oh. Answer me. I don't want you to answer me politically. Is being sick a sin? Yes or no? Say it out. No. Is being sick the will of God? No. Do you know that you can be in the will of God and sin? Okay, is being healthy the will of God? So you can be healthy and sin. How many of you know that you can be out of the will of God and not sin? Is being sick the will of God? You see, you are not answering properly now. You have become politicians now. Is being sick the will of God? So you can be sick. Abi, you're out of the will of God and come to church and be holy. Do you agree with that? It's not the will of God for anybody to be sick. If it was his will, he wouldn't have said Jesus should die for our sickness. Are you listening to what I'm saying? If it was his will for us to be sick, Jesus would not have been beaten for our healing. Do you follow what I'm saying to you here at this point? Huh? Now, is being poor a sin? Huh? Is being poor the will of God? No, I want to know where you stand. If it is no, stand up. Is being poor the will of God? Stand up. No. Let me see anybody sitting down. Now, let me ask you one question. Being poor or being rich, does it make you holy? Either of the two. Okay. Being sick or being healthy, does it make you holy? But if you are sick, it doesn't make you holy, but it makes it difficult for God to use you. True or false? If I was hospitalized, will I be preaching here? But will I still be a child of God hospitalized? Good. So, sickness hinders God using you. How many of you understand that? Now, let me ask you one question. Does poverty hinder God using you or not? Some of you don't know yet. You know the question is this: poor or rich, sick or healthy. God does not make a choice for you. He has said, my will is for you to be healthy. My will is for you to be blessed. My will is for you to be holy. You choose which one is convenient for you. Some people, most of you will not choose sickness because you feel the pain of sickness. But some of you have a false superiority, spirituality that you want to choose poverty. If you choose to be poor, it doesn't make you a sinner, but you are out of the will of God. The same person that chose to be sick is in the same condition as the person that chose to be poor. How many of you agree with that statement? Raise your hand if you agree with that statement. Will God love them? Answer me now. Talk to me. Will God hate somebody for being poor? Will God hate somebody for being sick? But now, which one do you think God, if God used the person that is sick, won't you accuse him of being wicked? Now, let me ask you one thing. Who uses poverty, God or the devil? Not all of you are talking now. Because some of you are very spiritual. So spiritual that God himself is afraid of you. Who uses sickness? Have you been sick before? If you have been sick before, let me see your hand up. And you enjoyed it so well that you wanted it again. You enjoyed it so well. Now let me ask, do you know if sickness is the will of God, anybody that is trying to get healed by any means is against God. And anybody trying to heal, including doctors, must be out of the will of God. Because if it's against the will of God, if it is the will of God for us to be sick, every doctor is going to hell. Is that not correct? So sickness is not the will of God. You agree with that? So doctors that are trying to deal with it are in the will of God, but they may not be born again. You know you can be in the will of God without being born again. How many of you know that government is the will of God? You agree with that government is the will of God? Let me see your hand up. You agree? Does you have to be born again to be in government? Sit down. Do you get the message that I'm dealing with this morning? Praise God. Now, you know, the problem is this. I sold akara before, so I know what it is. You understand? If you talk to me about poverty, about prosperity, I have tasted the two. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I know the dangers of poverty. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Praise God. Now, God will not love me less or more. But if I understand what poverty did to me and made me not able to do, and almost made of me, I want God to help me to take my children on another road. It won't make them holier. It won't make them senior. But it will give them a chance. I don't know if you are following what I'm saying here. Praise God. Because unless your doctrine is right, your ability to reflect the glory of God is corrupted. You cannot reflect the glory of God that God created you to do with wrong doctrine, with incorrect doctrine. It is incorrect doctrine, listen to me, that makes the white man to think the black man is inferior and mistreat him. It is incorrect doctrine that makes a man to think the woman is inferior and sit on top of her. There are men today, born again, speaking in tongues, that treat their wives like house girls. Are you listening to what I'm saying? There are societies today that the wife is like the property. What makes a society say that a man marries and dies, and they didn't ask the wife what is her will, and they divide her and pass her to the younger brother of the man to inherit? Hello? How many of you know that happens? Let me see your hand up. You know what? I have pastored 2 people like that are born, bearing the same surname by different fathers, same mother. The fathers are brothers, the same mother. Oseopeha. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The older one died, they transferred the woman to the younger brother. Same mother. Now, what makes a woman to be that kind of commodity? Wrong. Did they ask the woman whether she loved the younger brother? No. But cultural doctrine says she doesn't have any say. Even those of you that you are looking at me like this, men, how much percentage equality does your wife have at home? When you get home, just test it at the television. Hand over the remote control to your wife. I'm not talking of any serious matter, bank account. Just check how much power your wife has at home. Let her be in charge of the remote control for 1 week. Now let me ask you, are you the owner of the TV? Why she cannot determine what the 2 of you watch, I still don't know. How many of you are still on this same page with me? Huh? Praise God. Okay, give your wife the key of the car, let her drive home after service. Say, I could drive to me. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Why that is wrong doctrine? Now let me tell you something. Our ability to reflect God is determined proportionately by the degree of our correct doctrine. As your doctrines are corrected, there are changes that is taking place in your life. As your doctrine become perverted, what happens in your life? There are perversions that are taking place in your life. When a man believes that a man is somebody he can have sex with, his doctrine is wrong. When a woman believes that there's something that is in a woman that she wants to relate with sexually, that doctrine is wrong. And what will happen? Behaviors become perverted. Now, having established that point, remember what brought us to this point? That Jesus and yourself, you're on the same plane. Do you get that? All right, let me have 2 brothers that can drive. That drive. One brother that drives, one that doesn't drive. Let me see you. A brother that drives, really drive. You drive, you don't drive. Any brother that doesn't drive here? You don't drive. Okay, come. How many of you agree that the two of them are on the same plane? Human beings. You agree. But according to the subject of driving, this brother is superior to this brother. But as a human being, is he superior? Now, what made him able to drive is that he's a human being. He has developed and explored that capacity in the human being to the degree that he can drive. Am I correct? If there is a brother here that can fly a plane, we will put him in front here. Are you following what I'm saying? And that's why I said to you that anything that a human being can do, another human being can do it. It doesn't mean he is doing it, but he can do it. You must have that understanding. It doesn't mean you are proud. It simply means you are declaring the capacity that is inside you, the potential that is inside. You cannot train a dog to drive a car. As much as a gorilla looks like a man, he can wear a suit like a man, he cannot drive a car. Do you agree with that? So now, what we make this brother now, to say this man is a better creature than him, is if he's lazy and is not willing to stretch himself to do what he's able to do. If a human being can do something as a human being, you can do what? It may cost you, it may stretch you, but you can stretch yourself. So if you ever feel somebody is superior to you, don't blame that person, blame your laziness. Blame your stupidity, blame your carelessness. Are you listening to what I'm saying? That is why that person is better than you. Now let me say this to you. Hear this? That capacity to drive a car. How many of you know angels don't have it? Well, I'm sure you have that. That's part of your wrong doctrine now. If you get to your car, how many of you believe you have an angel that is a guard around you? How many of you believe you have angelic guards? Raise your hand, let me talk to you. Now, if you get to your car after service today and the door of your car open without you opening it, will you step inside? If your angel say, I'm the one that opened it, you will just tell him that's not what I asked you to do. Now, listen to what I'm saying. This capacity was transferred down. Is in a human being. Okay? Some things are inside you as a human being that a previous human being in your lineage has done. Now write it down, don't forget that. If I get this done today, it will help us to do this teaching very well. I'm talking of hindrances to supernatural living. That's where I'm going. Okay? Now, let me go back to my story. My ability to pick up in school. I believe that is...
Hello everyone. Are you looking for a place to fellowship online this season? Are you searching for an avenue to feed your faith consistently on a daily basis? Are you looking for answers? Then we've got you covered. God has directed his servant, Reverend Olusola Areogun, to minister the word of life to every believer. Join in using the following links: www.lifevoicesinternationalchurch.org/streaming or www.dciradio.org. You can also connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Vimeo with the handle at Reverend Areogun. Fellowship online with us every Wednesday for our midweek service from 5 o'clock in the evening, and on Sundays for our super celebration service from 8 o'clock in the morning on the same platform. For inquiries, you can contact us via these telephone numbers: +234 806 091 9696, +234 810 586 4579, and +234 803 725 2124. SMS only. You can also send an email to lifevoices@hotmail.com. Remember, this is not the season to fear, but a time to feed on the undiluted word of truth and return back to the place of personal intimacy with God. The Lord has said you are His, you are hidden, impregnable, and strengthened. Jesus is Lord.
as an answer.